Welcome to Always with Awareness. My name is Douglas Lodmell.
And I'm Awa Lodmell. And today I have the pleasure to talk with my husband about Father's Day.
Father's Day.
You're surprised, huh?
I am. Yeah, I was sitting down thinking we were doing something else, but you're right. Sunday is Father's Day.
Sunday's Father's Day,
Yeah.
Daddy.
Yeah.
So you're the father of my kids.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to hear from your point of view, what did it mean for you to be a father?
You know, I think being a parent is something that no one is really ready for. I mean, I shouldn't say no one. I'm sure some people are ready, but I certainly was ready. I wanted to be a father. I was ready to be a father, but I certainly didn't feel prepared for what that meant. For the emotions, the depth of the emotions, you know, and it's amazing to me how the system works. You start out with this little jelly bean, just this little potted plant that doesn't really move, and you know, just it's like a puppy. You know, it's just poops and eats and farts and needs changing and everything. But there's no possible judgment that you could put on this infant, right? Nothing they're doing can offend you, because they're just being the perfect being.
That's right.
Right? Yeah. And so, for me at least, that process of having, you know, years of this before they started doing anything that, you know, needed correcting.
That's right.
And all of a sudden they're doing stuff and you've got to correct them, right? It's like, no, don't wipe poop on the wall behind the drapes, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, and so, and then as they grow, you know, they just get cooler. The process of being a father is cooler, and they get more challenging at the same time, right? That's right. And so, you know, for me, I think we all can give what we have. And so, you know, my relationship with my father was one of almost like partners, like buddies. Well, we actually were partners. We were law partners.
Yes.
You know, when I was young, he was into real estate. We'd drive around and he would share with me, you know, what do you think this property cost? And he always treated me like I could understand things. And,
Great.
you know, in the end, I did understand them because I think in part he treated me like I could.
That's right.
You know, I didn't grow up with a lot of correcting. Mine was more of a passive relationship with my parents.
Yeah.
They kind of let me figure it out. And because of that, you know, the process of growing up felt, I don't know, I felt like if I figured something out, I figured it out. And it was almost like I would go to my parents for help when I couldn't figure it out. But other than that, I was pretty much left to figure it out.
That's amazing. That is great.
Well, it's different because not all my friends were raised like that. You know, some of them were raised with a much more, you know, this is the way to do it, a lot more training, a lot more teaching.
Yes.
And I see the value in both.
That's right.
I see the fathers who really took a child under their wing and, you know, coached them personally or, you know, taught them how to build a house or fix a car. Yeah. And I did have some of that.
Yes.
My stepfather actually was very handy, and I would go to the shop at the base with him, and we rebuilt an engine.
Yeah.
You know, we repainted a car. Like, I really felt like I got that too.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But, you know, your question was, how does it feel or what does it mean for me to be a father?
Absolutely. Did it transfer all your knowledge?
So it's funny because there are times when I look at my kids and I say, oh, gosh, I wish I would have done more. Like, I wish I would have done more of that training. I wish we had gone fishing more and you know, all the things. And yet I see that I defaulted more into my dad's style. Which was let them figure it out.
Okay.
And come to me when you need help.
Yes.
And I think that's because that's what I got.
That's what you got.
Right. That's how I was raised.
That's right.
And it worked for me.
Yeah.
Right. It gave me a sense of independence. It gave me a sense of I was very independent, very young.
Yeah.
I was also the oldest child, so that probably played into that. Had a lot of responsibility very early in life, so it made me very capable. I remember waiting for my stepfather Mel to install a stereo in my car. I
Yeah.
bought a stereo and I was waiting for him to install it.
Yes.
And he was busy that day. And I finally got tired of waiting and I just pulled out the instructions and I ended
did
up
it.
doing it myself.
Yeah.
And that was really empowering because it was the first time I said, "Oh, wow. What he already taught me has given me enough confidence for me to do it."
Yeah.
And to figure out the part that he hadn't taught me.
That's right.
And yet he was right there. And I think I went over at one point and asked him a question about something. But the process of growing up
Yes.
in this environment of you get the chance to
Yes.
make your own mistakes, and then try to correct them.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't, come to us and we'll see if we can help you.
And I'm the first one to witness that with you. You are definitely that kind of father.
Yeah. Right.
And like you said, I'm sure at times it's challenging too. What are the challenges that you run into where you had to step up and do differently than what you had?
Well, I think the biggest challenge for me is guilt.
Oh, okay.
Right? The biggest challenge, I think, for any parent is probably guilt. Because no matter what we do,
Yeah.
no matter what, no matter if I had been, spent every second with my child coaching and like if they never left my side,
Yeah.
I would have done something wrong in my mind, right? I didn't give them enough freedom.
Which is
I didn't
great.
let them figure it out on their own. I was just too there,
Too
right?
there, absolutely.
So it's guilt, right? Like I feel like, so you look at your kids and as amazing as they are,
Yes.
guilt comes up, right? So I think that's my biggest challenge as a parent, in particular, because when they do have challenges or when they're, not doing as well as you want them to do or as they want to even do for themselves,
Yes.
of course you feel like, oh, that must have been my fault.
Yeah.
I didn't give them what they needed. They're struggling because of me.
Yeah.
But I know that's not true.
No.
Right? And so it's just an opportunity for me to work on my own
That's right.
my own stuff.
Yeah.
And certainly that has been the biggest gift of parenthood is what the children do to make you work on yourself.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Yeah.
And yes, there are times when I have to step up in a way that I'm not used to stepping up because of my passive nature of raising and let them figure it out.
Yes.
And that's a challenge for me when it happens, but it's also rewarding when it happens too.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like when I do it and when I have done it, I realize, oh, I'm very capable of doing this.
That's right.
It's just not natural. Right?
I know that. But and I agree with you. It's so funny because it's almost like the kids are here to challenge us.
It's not almost. That's exactly what they're here to do. They're here to challenge us. The kids are here to challenge us. That's
Yeah.
their whole purpose in life.
I know. We have a saying in Wolof that say, "Bo mage diga gërëb baga harap," which is when you grow up, you have two choices: is to be grateful or really to kind of hate your parents and don't want to be like them. So
Yeah.
those are the two choices, which means no matter what, you are going to have your kids challenge you,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And as a father, I know today we're talking about Father's Day, so I will not talk about mothers today, but I will talk about fathers. It's a very sensitive, because I wish I knew how it would be to grow up with a father. Because I lost mine when I was 6 years old, and then I had an amazing stepdad, and unfortunately he didn't live long enough. I lost him. I was 16 years old, but seeing you and being an amazing father to my kids, I can tell you if they had to choose, who do you love more, daddy or mommy, they would go daddy.
I disagree. I don't think so.
You know, because that passiveness, that letting them grow organically, I would say, where the mistakes are okay. All of that was kind of new to me, really. And that's something that you brought into my life that I really, really feel was missing, because every one of us, we heard this before, you marry your parents, right? You're looking for the father you didn't have, or your father you had, the mom you didn't have, or the mom you had. So you can just only pray that your husband is a great representation of the father you would have want to have. So I know sometimes it's challenging, but now tell me about the moment that, if there is, I'm sure there is, where you just go like, wow, what an amazing thing to be a father.
Well, I mean, it's not a moment. It's just so many moments, right? Yeah. I mean, when so Iman, my oldest child, came with you.
Yes.
And she's 5 years old. And she, we were out in the backyard playing, and she said, "Daddy, do you want to see a magic trick?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." And she goes, "Bing, you're a daddy." and I just it was so profound, because that is literally what she brought to my life. I went from not married, not a daddy, to married and a daddy like that.
That's overnight.
Right? Overnight, and married to the mommy and daughter that I could only have dreamed of. Right, that I had already a picture in my wallet telling people, "Here's my wife and daughter," before I was married, before we were dating. I mean, it's almost like, talk about, I think I created you and Iman. I mean, that was the moment it hit me, because it was just like, wow, boy, you have no idea how true that was. What a magic trick that was.
Yeah.
Then when Renesse was born, and when she came out, and Iman was there and you were there, and just seeing her. And what I remember about that is the way I looked at her. Iman was looking at me, and Iman starts to cry. She goes, "Oh,"
like I'm gonna get to share you.
That I was just, she could feel like, "Oh my God, I'm sharing you now." Like there's somebody else that's gonna get that.
Yes.
And then of course, as our son, a boy is different.
Oh, tell me, how different?
Well, for me, I think girls are kind of. I always wanted girls for daddy's girls, but a boy is a boy. Like boys are different. They have a different sense about them, and I think especially as they grow, as they become men, you see them. I don't know. I see them differently.
Yeah.
That ability to let them make their mistakes, I feel even more with him.
Yes.
He's a boy. He's going to have to figure it out.
That's right.
Like, if he's got a bully at school, you need to deal with it, right?
Even the girls had to.
Yeah, even the girls had to deal with the bullies at school.
Right.
So, but it's just, that parenting with all of the kids.
Yes.
I see them as whole and complete. I see them as capable. I see them the way I was seen as a child.
That's right.
Which is not somebody who was handicapped or too little to do anything, that didn't understand the adults around me. I felt quite the opposite. I understood the adults around me, I think, sometimes better than they understood each other.
Wow.
I remember coming up with ideas on a construction job that none of the adults could see, and I said, "Well, what if we just put a T here and run it this way?" and they literally looked at me like,
how do you get that?
You're right. Yeah. Like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so I see my kids the same.
That's right.
And so, for me, there is a lot of latitude in that ability to let them figure things out. Now, it's also really helpful to have the guide rails up at some point.
That's right.
Right. So when they start to go off the guide rails, to make sure that they have the sense to come back.
That's right.
And, I think in our case, we just make a really good team around that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were raised with the guardrails very firm.
Yes.
And so your ability to do that is strong. And so I think together it makes a great partnership.
I believe so, too.
So the other thing I want to say about being a parent, and this is really something you taught me, when I looked at my parents who were divorced when I was very young, 6. So your father died when you were 6. My parents split when I was 6. So same effect, really.
Absolutely,
it was a trauma
for the child. Yeah.
It's a trauma for the child.
Yeah.
And then I look at my friends' parents and everybody I pretty much knew. The focus for the parents appeared to me more on the kids than on each other as a couple. I look at it and I'm like, oh, okay. And as a kid, I thought that was a great thing.
Yes.
Because I'm a kid, I'd rather. So certainly for my dad, who was not remarried, his focus was on us.
Yes.
Right. For my mom, her focus was on us.
That's right.
We were all she had.
Yes.
And, in that context, we were her world, especially until my stepfather came along. And so there was a ton of focus on us.
That's right.
And I saw that basically through everybody, through everybody that I knew.
Yeah,
their
that
parents.
their kids were
the kids were the
focus.
priority. I
Yes.
never perceived, of course, you're not in the home, you don't really know, but I never perceived that the parents were the priority as a couple and that the kids were somehow, within the context of that. I always felt like the kids were the priority and the parents were kind of trying to get their time in as they could.
Yeah.
What I think that you brought and that I quickly adopted because I saw the value of was that my priority is actually on you and on the marriage and on the relationship. And this is counterintuitive, I think, to an American because we think, oh no, the kids are the priority. But the reality is that the kids are learning not what we tell them. They're learning what we show them.
Absolutely.
So you can tell you're blue in the face something, but if you're not doing it,
Yes.
they're only going to see and learn what it is that you are doing. And so what we decided consciously to do
Yes.
is focus on our relationship first, because that's what we want to teach our kids,
That's right.
that it's really not all about them.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah.
It's about us.
Yes.
And then they are inside of our context.
That's right.
And so I believe, and none of them are married yet, and they're just getting, to adulthood where they're starting to date and things.
Yes.
But I believe that will strongly influence how they are in relationship
Yes.
and who they choose to marry and how they choose to relate. And when they have kids, I believe they'll do the same thing.
Well, that brought me to just really feeling men who are about to be a father and are afraid. Why? Because you are saying this child is coming maybe to just take all the focus
Right.
of my life. And it's not true. Right? It's not true.
But it is true for a lot of people.
Well,
though.
for a lot of people.
That's their example.
Yeah, that is the example. So, and that's why I'm saying for this Father's Day, last week we had so many people come to our home, women that are raising kids alone, and the father was not present, and it's just sad, And we see a lot of that in this part of.
I'd say the majority.
That's the majority here in America, unfortunately. So Father's Day is going to be a sensitive point to reach, just like the same way with Mother's Day. A lot of people have father's problem, And what does it mean? Is it like a fear that men have to raise kids, to stay in relationship with kids? What do you think it is?
Well, that's a really big question, right?
Yes.
What is it that men are afraid of? Well, commitment in general, men are afraid of.
Yes.
Because it means a loss of their perceived freedom.
Freedom.
And when you're young, that's freedom of being in whatever relationship I want with whoever I want, right? And so there's a certain amount of programming that we're dealing with as men.
Which is?
Programming of procreating with getting our lineage out there as wide and as far as possible.
Oh, really? That's the thing, huh?
Well, I think it is a thing.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's worth talking about as a thing because I think there is some of that genetic programming in us.
Yes, okay.
Certainly there's hormonal challenges to deal with as a man.
Yes.
I think women have a very, very difficult time understanding men and how strong a sex drive men have when they're young.
Yes.
How overpowering it is, how they cannot run both at the same time, right? When one takes over, this one kind of shuts off, literally.
Okay.
And so it's just women are challenged in different ways. For men, the challenge is that we are just very much terrified of what it means to commit to something because we don't know what it means.
That's right.
Now, add to that the context of your example with your own mother was that when you were born, you became her world, and the father ended up being a second-class citizen, and your parents ended up divorced. That's your example. That's at least half of the people in this country's example, if not more.
Wow.
So now you're a young man,
Yeah.
and you're in love with this beautiful girl. You're also in love with a zillion other beautiful girls. Anybody that walks by, basically, you can be in love with if they're sexy enough to you, right? So you have this sexual drive that's pulling you everywhere. You have this emotional connection with the one woman, and now, and you think, okay, well, that's good. At least I can lock onto this one. And then all of a sudden she says, hey, we're going to have a baby. And you don't think this, but I think your root programming is, oh, shit. That means the baby's going to get all the attention. I'm going to become just like my father, a second-class citizen, and probably end up divorced.
Wow.
Right?
Okay. Fear.
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 Just straight up fear.
Straight up fear.
So, the women out there who are confused as to why men are not jumping to get married as quickly as possible, it's fear. We're afraid of the example that's been set for us.
That's right.
We're afraid of what that means to get married. We're afraid of what it means to have kids, the responsibility that means. We're afraid of the financial commitment that takes.
That's right.
Men are very aware of their role of providing financial security to a family, and it's a lot of challenge.
That's
it's
right.
very challenging to take on not just a wife who could be working.
Yes.
Nowadays, both people are working.
Yes.
But when a child comes, naturally things make it harder for both people to work. So the whole ball of wax becomes very, very frightening and challenging. And today more than ever.
Yeah.
Because if we look at 50 or 100 years ago, the whole infrastructure was just set up to where that's just what you're going to do.
Yes.
And so you didn't really have a lot of thought around it. The divorce rate wasn't there. The family unit was still intact 100 years ago.
That's right.
So you didn't have that example of, oh my gosh. But that all changed.
Yeah.
And certainly in my childhood.
That's right.
Right? So that all changed. And so most of the people that are in my generation and after
Yeah.
are dealing with a broken family concept in a world where things have gotten very confusing, very difficult, and yet access to the thing that the man wants the most when he's young, which is sex, is easy.
Yeah.
You can just swipe right or left and you get what you want. And I talk to my young people, and it's way easier than it was in my day, for sure. And that's scary. Yeah. That's not an encouragement to me. I'm not happy for him. I'm terrified for him. I am. I'm terrified because I know what it means to be a young man with testosterone pumping through their body.
Yeah.
I just know, and if you had given me a menu of unlimited options, I know what I would have done.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, thank God I didn't have that menu.
But to hear you are saying at the same time the opportunity to be a father and to take the responsibility to be a father outweighed all that fear.
So yes, for me, it absolutely outweighed all that fear. My responsibility, my opportunity to be a father absolutely outweighed the fear, because that fear, one, wasn't conscious. It was sub-programmed.
Yes.
But my desire to be a father was always there. I never had any doubt that I wanted to be a father. I never had any question about it. I was literally waiting for the right person. That's all. Yeah. I wasn't questioning whether I wanted to be a father. I just wanted to make sure I had the right mother.
That's right.
So
what would be the advice you'll give to a father-to-be or a father who is so afraid of taking his responsibilities as a father?
Well, again, I would back it up. Your responsibility as a father is your responsibility as a husband
That's
more than
right.
anything else, right? So it's that first. If I had to say my responsibility is to be a father without considering my role as a husband, I don't think I could get it right.
That's right.
I don't think it would work. I think I would. The priorities are in the wrong order. There are certain things that just need to come first.
That's right.
And they don't work well when you put the cart in front of the horse. It just doesn't work. The horse and the cart might be hooked up, but they're not in the right order, and you'll never get that cart to move because the horse is not pulling it. It's trying to push it,
Yeah.
and they don't do that. So I think that anybody who's considering fatherhood, consider what I consider the most important decision you'll ever make in your life, which is the partner that you choose. So for me, that meant the mother, that meant the woman, that meant the wife. And once I had the right wife, then the fear around fatherhood dropped completely away. I can tell you when I was in the stage of my life where I was the most discouraged around women, finding a good woman, finding the right woman, finding someone that really, really fit me, that was the time in which I considered most whether I wanted to be a parent.
Father. Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Because there were a few years there where I was just kind of discouraged
Yeah.
about finding somebody.
Well, it is something to talk about because I think the role of a father is very important in not only the partner's life, but the child.
Yeah.
Every child is looking up to their father. And today, for this beautiful day that we are here to celebrate our fathers, the fathers to be, the fathers that are, the fathers that have so much fear that they couldn't stay in the heat of, in the life of their kids, we wish you an amazing Father's Day. And in this day, to really reconsider and recheck that relationship.
Yeah.
Because that opportunity is an amazing, beautiful opportunity that we all need you and we all celebrate you, right? So thank you. Thank you for taking the role, the responsibility of being a father to your kids and even more. And we'll be back with another episode. But for today, I let you close this one.
Well, so for every father out there and every man out there who one day may be a father, just know that you're going to do fine. You'll be great. You can't really mess it up. I'm sure I'm going to get shit for saying that. People can go, oh yeah, my dad messed it up.
I know.
And of course you can mess it up in the sense that you can get things wrong. And I certainly have a list of things that I got wrong. But at the same time, you're the perfect father for your child. You are. And that's part of just this fundamental belief that all things are really working towards perfection, that the child you got is the child you needed, the parent they got is the parent they needed. And in that context, you can't mess it up. There's no wrong. There's no getting it wrong. I will say that if you're in a position where this resonates with you around the mother and the relationship between the parents, take that to heart and run with it. I mean, if you're still married or you're young and you have children, really consider what the biggest priority is in that family unit. And I can tell you, making it each other is just 1,000 times more powerful than making it the kids. And if you think that through, you'll come up with the same conclusion. It's just natural. It's just the natural thing. And you're teaching your kids too exactly what it looks like to be in a good, healthy relationship. That's the biggest gift that you can give them.
Right.
Because again, our kids are going to marry their parents. I mean, most kids who were abused end up being in relationship with people who abuse them. So most kids are really looking at and will recreate what they have. So if you focus on creating a strong, healthy unit between you two, and then agree on how you're going to parent the kids, I think that's the best thing you can possibly do. And I think that's what we've done. And even though we have very different upbringings of parenting style,
That's right.
and sometimes that might be frustrating to go, wow, that's not how my dad would have done it. That's not how my brothers would have done it. That's not how my mom would have done it. It's trusting the same thing.
Absolutely.
That's what we needed for our kids.
Yes.
And because they're getting this very unique, very different style, I think that it's creating very strong kids.
Absolutely. And, that made me think of people that their fathers are knocking at the door, wanting to be back in their life, and they're still angry, where they don't want to give that father the opportunity to be in their lives again, to reconsider, sometime forgiving, because you know what? He might be your father and you're mad at your father, but at the same time, it's a grandparent to your kids.
Yeah.
These men in our lives have very, very important role to play, and it's not to be taken for granted.
Well, and this gets into the why behind we have the men that we have today, but this is the opportunity to raise the man that you would like to see in the world. And it may not be looking like the man that you had in your life as your own father.
That's right.
or your own, husband, or whatever role you had in your life. And that means that taking a look at how it is that you see the role of men.
Yeah.
And again, letting them own that power and not overburdening them with this is what it needs to look like. This is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But letting them find that so that when they own it, they own it.
That's right.
And that's the difference. So it might have taken, I would say, me a roundabout way to come to where I am. But because I got there, I own it.
That's right.
I'm not faking it. I'm not having to question it. I don't have to wonder who I am. I got there because I got there through my process.
That's right.
And our kids have to do the same thing. And you have to let them get there through their process so that they own it by the time they're there. If we keep saving them from everything, we're not doing them any favors at all. So,
Doug, thank you so much, and
Yeah.
happy Father's Day to you.
Oh,
Happy
thank you.
Father's Day to all of you. Today is a beautiful day to celebrate the fathers in our lives. And like I said, your role is very important. Take it seriously and stand for who you are and for the family that you're building, the kids that we're creating.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, because your kids are our kids, because one day we're going to be dealing with them.
That's right.
So get it right. Thanks. Have a great Father's Day.